Right, welcome to the Pyramid GenBI presentation by Hopton Analytics. Today I'm going to be joined by Simon Devine, our CEO, and Max Zito, a sales engineer from Pyramid, who'll be working as magic, and myself. I know what you're thinking. Westlife have really let themselves go, haven't they? What is business intelligence? BI is the process of taking raw data from your source and making it and turning it into information. Examples of that would be charts, visualizations, and most people think of dashboards when they're thinking of BI, with the ability to drop down and to view the data and to access the data and to understand what's happening. The challenges with most solutions are that it's hard to access the right data. Sometimes the data is locked away or it's just hard to get at. The lack of governance and security, that can be down to sort of the amount of data you're looking at in terms of if it's a MOD or if it's government or if it's tax or if it's payroll information. GDPR can be an issue. Most tools out there don't scale. So you start off with a small application, and as the company adopts it and grows it in the business, it gets slower and the data is too big and it can be a challenge. A lot of tools also require your source data and your dashboard to have an intermediate step in the middle, like a data warehouse or something to transition the data. And again, that can add complication to the system and also lag. A lot of tools aren't designed for non-technical users, so that can lead to a low acceptance in the business of the solution itself. So what's the benefit if you get this right? Well, the first one and the obvious one, I suppose, is that the sales of the company, you can spot new opportunities within the company itself. So, oh, look, there's somebody we haven't sold to, or there's somebody that we haven't sold much to, let's sell some more. You also have the ability to reduce your costs by looking at and comparing maybe different departments or different companies in the group and comparing one for the one and saying, how come that's expensive there? Let's look at cost savings. The third benefit is the productivity of individuals who use BI. It'll help them get information faster and react faster. And I'd add a fourth one to this, which is that it'll help you with customer churn, that you can give your customers a better level of service, spot when problems are happening and sort them before they do become a problem. Problems are going to get bigger because there's more data out there and there's a lot more, I suppose, people in the company now looking for information that they didn't look for before in a dynamic way. They're also more sophisticated, so they're looking for more information, and their questions are getting more sophisticated as well. So I'm going to hand you over to Max now to do a presentation on Pyramid itself, let you have a look at that. Any questions you have, just drop them into the chat over on the left-hand side and right-hand side, sorry, and we will get to those when we finish the presentation. Okay. Okay, Max.
Okay, you should all be able to see my screen by now. We're here to talk about GenBI. But of course, GenBI fits into part of the wider Pyramid ecosystem. So I'm here to give you an overview with GenBI scattered throughout. Now, importantly, Pyramid is an end-to-end platform. What I mean by that is it's not just a visualization tool. We start in Pyramid with our model capabilities. When we connect to data, we do it through model, and we do it in one of two ways. If your data is good to go, then we access it directly. The benefit of that is we leave the data where it is. Other tools out there will make you move the data in memory. And the problem with that is when you're moving data, you're duplicating it. And then there's always an associated cost with that as well. But also, if you're moving your data to do analytics, then your analytics are only as up to date as when you last moved the data. So with Pyramid, we go down the direct query route first. We have the best direct query engine in the market, validated by analysts as well. Super performant, super quick, going to leave the data where it is. Now, that can be in SQL, as you can see here, or Snowflake, or Redshift, or Databricks, or Mongo. Doesn't really matter to us. We connect to it. Pyramid is then going to look through the tables and automatically build the semantic layer for me by creating the joins between each of those tables. But of course, if I want to edit any of these at any stage, then I can do so. choosing how the columns are used as well. What's a dimension? What's a measure? How are they aggregated? All of that is done here within model. So you've got a nice clean data set ready to do analytics on top of. Now, there might be situations, because we're in the real world, where you can't always direct query, in which case you use Pyramid's model capability to build somewhat of an ETL process. Here you can see we connect to multiple different sources, pull the data out, and then prep it, right? Add time intelligence, maybe mask sensitive data, adding calculations, maybe convert columns and join tables together. Importantly, all of this is done in a no-code approach. Throughout the Pyramid platform, we take a no-code approach first to allow more people to do more things with data. And it means that those people that can code can focus on the more complex, high-value tasks. But even for those, it's going to save them time using a no-code approach as well. Even though I say it's a no-code approach, that doesn't mean you can't code within Pyramid. Of course, you can write Python and R and SQL in here as well. So yes, it's no-code, but it's also coding as well. Once you've got your data good to go, you then have options of where you save it. Other platforms out there will force you to put it in memory. In Pyramid, it's an option, but you can also write it back into your database. If you put some work in here to get data from multiple sources, clean it, prep it, and get it ready to do analytics, you probably want a record of it somewhere. So that's why we allow you to write it back into a database as well. So those are our modeling capabilities, allows us to sit on top of a database and get data ready to do analytics on it, importantly in a no-code approach. Discover is, if I wasn't doing my job very well, I'd say this is where we build tables and charts, right? But it's so much more than that because of how quick and easy it is to use. It actually allows me to explore data. So if I want to pull in some measures, some dimensions here, and some measures, and then we've got all the pretty visualizations you need, right? All the different bar charts, column charts, pie charts, and you can even upload custom visualizations through JavaScript in here as well. I can change what this looks like. Of course, we can format this with all the themes that you need as well. Very quick, very easy to do. If I want to come in here and apply filters, then of course I can do that as well. Okay. What else can I do here within Discover? Well, if I go and reset this, we also have great analysis within Pyramid, and I want to show you our forecasting capabilities. Right now, I'm going to go and get some data for each of our weeks. Doesn't matter what data it is. In this instance, I'm going to use sales data again. And you can see that Pyramid's going to plot this for me. I want this as a line chart. Now with forecasting, this is a great example of Pyramid as a whole. And what I mean by that is it's a spectrum with one end, a no-code, one-click approach, and on the other end, a coding approach. So with forecasting, I can click best fit. What this is going to do is look at the historical data and determine which forecasting algorithm is most appropriate for this forecasting type, and then apply it. If I come in here and switch on notes, it's telling me at the bottom that the forecast was created using an ARIMA algorithm. That was done in the click of one button. If I want to be more complex, I can choose the forecasting algorithm here, and based on which I choose, Pyramid is then going to prompt me to configure it appropriately. You can see here, ARIMA is asking me for different information to halt winters. So this isn't the one-click approach, but it's also not coding, right? It's somewhere in between its configuration. From here, of course, I can then go and write a full script. If I want to write my own Python or download it from our marketplace, or maybe someone else has created a Python script, saved it and shared it, I can then download it here and reuse it. Of course, when we do things like that, as with all parts of Pyramid, we can choose who can see it, who can edit it, and maybe who can just use it but not edit it. Now we're here to talk about GenBI. So what I've shown you so far, I think you'd agree, is very quick, very easy to do. We're really just scratching the surface of the functionality there, but I don't have too much time, so I hope that gives you an idea of the ease. What I want to show you now is where we step it up a level and use GenBI to generate things. Now, what do I mean by GenBI? This is connecting to an LLM. For Pyramid, it does not matter which LLM you want to use. Other platforms out there will force you down a particular route. Pyramid doesn't provide the LLM. That's your responsibility to have that relationship with the LLM and then provide Pyramid with the license key, but we're agnostic of what LLM you want to use. And the idea here is to save time and also to allow more people to do things with data without them having to have years and years of experience with GenBI. I can come in here, choose the model that I want to build this against. Actually, sorry, let's start a new Discover. I choose the model here. come down here and tell it what I want it to do. In this instance, I'm going to say, what were the revenues in New York City last year, and how do they compare to the prior year? Now, Pyramid in general is lightning quick. With this sort of stuff, it takes a few seconds, because what's happening is Pyramid with the LLM is taking my natural language response, using the LLM to work out what that actually means from a data point of view, changing that into a query, passing it back into Pyramid, and then Pyramid is executing that query. As you can see here, this is now showing me our revenues, right, for New York City for last year versus the prior year. Let me just move this out of the way. Okay, so that's quick, easy, giving me the information that I need. What's really smart about Pyramid's GenBI is we have the ability to iterate here and make the prompt more and more complex. So I can now say, how does this compare to Boston and LA? Again, it's going to go take that, pass it through to the LLM, convert it into a query, and then Pyramid's going to action that for me. Importantly, all of this can be done against all of those data sources that I called out before. We don't have to move it in memory. We're not only focused on a specific subset of data sources. Any data that you connect to in Pyramid, this is going to work against. You can see now, despite me saying Boston and LA, the LLM knew that LA was Los Angeles. And in a similar vein, if I now say, what about Philly? Right, of course, in our data, it's not going to be called Philly, it's going to be called Philadelphia, but the LLM is going to be smart enough to work out what I mean by that. So this is iterating, and quite frankly, I could sit here all day and get more and more complex. You can see that it's add Philadelphia to this. If I now say that I want to now break this out by gender, all the time it's going back to the data model, looking for what I mean, and then iterating further on what we've built so far. Now, what I'm showing you there is how we use our GenBI to create discovers or widgets or components, whatever you want to call them. In a little while, I'll show you how we use it to build a full presentation. For now, I'm going to close it and carry on with my demo, jump back to the home page. Our next module is Formulate. This sits tightly alongside Discover, and this is our calculation engine, but again, in a no-code approach. Of course, you can script in here if you want to, but the idea is I can come in here and by dragging and dropping different data points and different mathematical and logical and statistical functions, I can build out any calculation that your business needs, right? You can see we've got aggregates in here, averages, counts, ranging all the way down to statistical functions, which quite frankly, some of these I don't know what they are, but importantly, they're there, right? I think there's over 200 different functions in here allowing you to build out those calculations. Importantly, once you've built them, you can then save them and make them shareable. So if there's a figure in your business and there is currently some inconsistency on how that's calculated, you need to formulate, right? You define how it's calculated in Pyramid, save it, make it shareable, don't allow others to edit it, and then make sure that everyone's calculating that number in the exact same way each time. Tabulate is our spreadsheet experience. The reason we have this is pretty much every business I speak to has a problem with their employees working on data offline in a spreadsheet. Problem with that is that data could be old, could have been sat on their desktop for 6 months. They don't know it's old and maybe incorrect. Your BI team don't know that they're even using that data. So it's a problem, it could be old. Second reason is governance, right? Who's using what? If someone's working on data in Excel, in a spreadsheet rather, you don't know that. So what we did was take the spreadsheet experience, build it into Pyramid. I can connect to data live, all of those data sources that I called out before, and then I can perform all of the spreadsheet functions that I'm used to doing, such as VLOOKUPs, etc., etc. I think there's over 500 plus different functions here. It's the same spreadsheet library that you're used to using. All of the shortcuts, all of the ribbons and things like that are very familiar. So if someone is used to doing their job in a spreadsheet, they can carry on doing it within Pyramid. To them, there's very little disruption, but it means that we have governance around it and less of a risk. Now, Present, this is where we build our dashboards on top of those discovers that we've already created. Very quick, very easy, as you can imagine. It's done in a no-code approach, right? Until recently, if I wanted to create one of these, all I'd have to do is come into my library of widgets here, drag and drop them onto the page, right? I'm not a designer, so apologies that this doesn't look great, but of course, this can be highly formatted and look exactly as you want. Drag and drop them onto the page, maybe choose how they interact with each other, maybe add a filter. Very quick, very easy. But we're here to talk about the cutting edge of technology, which is GenBI. How do I take this one step further and do it even easier than I have already been doing it? I launch a new presentation, I choose the theme and the layout, and then I come to my trusty old friend here in the bottom hand corner and utilize the LLM again. This time, I'm going to go ahead and again select the model. Oh, sorry, let me move that out of the way. Select the model, and this time I'm going to say, generate a sales analysis slide showing me quantities sold by occupation and education, a different comparison of returns and customer happiness by state, and last, an analysis of country sales performance by promotion using revenues, expenses, and margins, and I want it sliced by years with slide insights. Now, that was quite a mouthful, and I think you'll agree, quite a complex ask. Importantly, all of that stuff that I was asking for, those discovers, those tables, those charts, those widgets, whatever we want to call them, they don't exist. It's not that they're in a library and I'm going to get them. What's happening here is Pyramid with the LLM is going and creating each of those discovers and then putting them here into the presentation. So yes, this might take about a minute to load, but ask yourself, how long is this taking you today to build a dashboard from scratch? Now, it might not get you to 100% of what you want every time because it's an LLM, right? There's some interpretation in there. But I can bet you it's going to get you to 95% of the way far, far quicker than you are doing today. If you then decide that you don't want this slide insights section and you want to delete it, and instead you want to expand this bar chart, you can, right? This is now just Pyramid components separate to the LLM, right? You can come in here and interact with it and change the colors and all that good stuff. So now when I run this, I have a fully working dashboard with geospatial in here and filters, as if you'd built it yourself from scratch, but you didn't, right? You used GenBI to generate it, and it took about a minute to do so. This is going to allow more people to be able to do this, and it's also going to allow those people to do it far quicker than they are doing today. They can get time back where they can then focus on more value-add activities, right? Such as building dashboards and components that are really solving a business problem. And for this stuff, where they just need to build things quickly, they've got GenBI to help them do that. Okay. What does a dashboard look like when it's viewed by the end user? Well, importantly, looks like however you want, but the function here is true self-service, right? Gartner ranked as #1 in their critical capabilities report for augmented analytics because we're so good at self-service. What do I mean by self-service? Well, without it, someone comes to a dashboard, doesn't get what they want, and then they do one of two things. They either close the dashboard down and go about their day not making decisions based on data, which is a problem, or they get in touch with the BI team and ask them to build something customized, right? Can you change this to a pie chart? Can you add in this other dimension? That slows down the person making the request, and over time, it builds up a backlog for the BI team. A lot of people who I speak to are struggling with that backlog today. It's not scalable having to customize something every time someone has a custom request. With Pyramid, you come in here and in a governed manner, you can change things without breaking them for anyone else. This is showing me sales split out by income and channel. I can come in here and tell Pyramid that I want to swap channel for product category, right? I'm only seeing things that I have access to. I can then decide that I want to swap income for a customer's country. And rather than seeing this as a stacked bar chart, I'm going to see it as a good old-fashioned column chart. I did that in a self-sufficient manner, didn't have to rely on anyone else, and didn't have to contribute to a backlog. I can open this and analyze it further, and also save it into my personal folder, so that then when I come to my home page, as you see here, those components that I've saved, I can put onto my home page so that I've got them as soon as I log in. I can go further, right? If I want to drill into this data, let me go and switch this to a grid to show the point. Oh, sorry. If I'm responsible for accessories and accessories only, I can select this and go and dice it by anything in the semantic layer that I have access to. Maybe I want to dice this by manufacturer. Then maybe I'm responsible for our relationship with Nuke. Go and select Nuke, and then maybe I want to dice this by our online and in-store sales. So this is allowing me to drill further and further into the data. With that in mind, if I want Pyramid to explain why a number is so high, I can do. Or why a number is so low, right? Why a number is a number. For example, this company sells bikes. So when someone returns a bike, we ask them, why are you returning the bike? So I've got all this data, but no action, right? I can see that missing parts or accessories is a key reason for returns, but what do I do about it? With Pyramid, I ask it to explain. This uses partial tree segment analysis in the back end, which is a machine learning technique, to show me what's going on here. And I can see that when something is returned because it's missing parts, it's coming from a reseller as opposed to direct customer. And actually, it's coming from this particular reseller. And actually, I can see which day of the week this is on. And I can see that it's when transactions are more than 2 items at once. So maybe this gives me fuel to now go and speak to Tabitha and say, Tabitha, what's going on? In your store on Wednesdays, when you're selling more than 3 things at once, you're forgetting to include the parts or accessories. That then allows Tabitha to see who's working that day, maybe train them more so that they don't have that problem in the future. It's just an example, but it allows me to drill deeper into data to see what's going on. Last thing I want to show you in terms of the dashboard is, let me choose my example here, is where does GenBI fit in for the front-end user? You saw me editing this before, but now I can come in here, use GenBI, and say to this, show me a list of the top 20 selling products. Okay. Imagine if I didn't have GenBI. What I'd have to do is go on Teams, see which of our analysts is online. Maybe they're in a call. So in an hour, I have to message them or I have to email them. With Pyramid, that's taken me 30 seconds to get the answer that I need. I know I'm flying through this, but it's because we do so much. Last thing I wanted to call out, and then we've got a couple of minutes for questions. Publish. This is our purpose-built reporting module. This sits tightly alongside dashboards. It means we can build highly designed reports, schedule them, trigger them, right? If a certain data point is reached, generate this report and send it to these people that need to know about it. Changes analytics from having to be proactive, someone going to look at a dashboard, to it actually just landing in their inbox and forcing someone to look at it. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for listening. The value here is it's all in one platform. Yes, each module has a lot of value, but by having it in one platform, we lower the total cost of ownership as well. I'll now take questions.
That's great. Thanks, Max. That's excellent what you can do. We've had a few questions on the private chat. If I can ask, I'll ask the first few of you, and then David, I'll come to you if that's okay. So question one, especially as we're talking GenBI, does it work with all LLMs?
Yeah, exactly. We're LLM agnostic. So there are other providers out there that will force you down their own LLM route. For us, we don't mind. You just have to give us the license key and then we can connect to it. We actually have some POVs going on with clients at the moment that are in very niche industries, and therefore they're using a niche LLM that they've created themselves, and they'll use that within Pyramid. So yes, agnostic of LLM.
That's cool. What about if it's on-prem or cloud? Is it?
Yeah, so Pyramid can be deployed on-prem or in cloud or a hybrid. Your data source can be on-prem or in the cloud or a hybrid. So it doesn't matter to us.
Fantastic. You mentioned a few data sources. Are there any that it works with better than others, or I guess any that it doesn't work with? I know it's a bit of a strange one.
Yeah, sure. Works with 99%, right? And I'm not saying that because I've got an idea of the 1% in my head. I just want to cover my back, right? I'm sure, if you've got some data written down on a napkin somewhere, we're not going to be able to connect to that. But pretty much everything else, right? All the typical databases, I don't know how many there are there. We can also build custom connectors through ODBC and JDBC. So yeah, would welcome any conversation around what data sources are, but I've not come up against something that we haven't been able to connect to yet.
That's cool. So no napkins, but other than that, we're pretty solid. That's great. Embedding. So I've got this, which is great. I want to embed this in my portal, my customer portal or whatever. Is that something that can be done?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So Pyramid as a platform as a whole embeds very well. In fact, I'd say probably about 50% of the conversations I'm having at the moment are around embedding for all kinds of reasons. One being that we don't just iframe in Pyramid, we inject into the page, meaning there's all kinds of performance benefits. One of those benefits being as well that we can use the GenBI stuff that I just showed you there through an embedded experience for that front-end user.
That's cool. Thank you. David, I have a few questions, if I can, for you. Thanks, Max. Appreciate that. Proof of concepts, proof of capability. Is that something? Is that a way forward in terms of next steps?
That's a very good way to actually check to make sure that Max hasn't been spoofing about the data sources. Because what we can do is we can then say, right, take a part of your data. I wouldn't take everything, but build a proof of capability which says, right, we're going to try out the system with this data, with this expected set of results, and if that works, then it can help move the project along. So absolutely, proof of capability is a very good way of actually proving both internally and also to the board that they should be progressing this, and they can see some of the benefits straight away then. So it's a good way of doing it.
Perfect, thank you. And then the last one that's come in terms of pyramid and the sort of things we've been looking at, Max mentioned perhaps some use cases. What sorts of organizations are using or speaking with pyramid at the moment?
Good question, very good question. And just happen to have a slide which has it on it. Can I share? Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So I got this slide yesterday actually from Pyramid, so it's up to date. But you can see some of the large clients that they have and the range. It's not specific to one or two industries. It's right across the board, and quite large companies there, as you can see, and they're all happy Pyramid clients. So yeah, right across the board. And I suppose that the one thing that they all share is that they have a lot of data in a lot of places, and they're growing businesses. So they're using their data to push their business forward.
That's excellent. That's the end of the questions, I think.
Yeah, so just to summarize.
One more, sorry. Are these companies still using other BI tools? So I can answer that. So I guess, are they using them as well? Yes. I think most organizations nowadays don't just have the one tool. They'll have one primary tool, and then they'll move away from tools such as Power BI or Tableau. So it doesn't have to be a massive big bang. It can be something that organizations grow into with the likes of Pyramid. One of the things you've seen with Pyramid from Max there is that what you've got is all sorts in terms of data governance, and that really plays well at an enterprise or a large data set model that other tools don't have. So what we find is that users, organizations take Pyramid as a strategic decision and then begin to move away from other tools.
They dip their toe in the water with something smaller or something that they've had for about 5 or 6 years. And now they've said, okay, well, we know the business wants to go forward. We've got more data than we know what to do with, and we want to make this an enterprise solution rather than just one or two departments using it. Yeah, exactly. Just to summarize then, we've got Pyramid can actually access a lot of data, but it doesn't need to have a data lake in the middle of it. So that's quite an important part. You're saving yourself a lot of components there. It can read the data, but it doesn't actually move the data. Some solutions that we've come across before take a large copy of the data and they move it up every night. And that can add a lot of traffic, but also you have to store that information, and that can be quite expensive. The idea that these Pyramid dashboards aren't just saying what's happened, but also telling you what you should do or what you can do, as you saw there in the example of the bike, helping you sort out issues rather than just saying there's a problem with the bike, there's a problem with the supply chain or whatever. So it helps you work out what to do. And the whole GenBI thing takes away the mystique, I suppose. I'm talking as an IT guy, I hate that. But it takes away the mystique of somebody having to go off into a dark room, create a new version of BI for you, and then you use it the next day. You're able to do an awful lot yourself, and you haven't got to have a PhD in BI work. So the next step, as we said just a few minutes ago, is to book a proof of capability with ourselves. And we can then go through a template that we have and work out what we want to do, what we want to show, and what success looks like. Okay, hit me on a mail, my own mail, david.jones@hopton, or hello. There's a phone number there, but it'll be on the bottom of my emails as well. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I hope it wasn't too long. And any questions at all, anything we can do for you, please let us know. Thank you very much.